What's up everybody, Roman Rackwitz here. Last time we talked about why school is different than games, or what school can learn from games. We talked about different kind of principles, of game principles, like the principle of participation, the individualized customization. We talked about identity, we talked about problem solution, so it's always about solving problems in games, right? We talked about sequencing, how games are structuring a more complex problem down into different kind of elements, but they still have a context with each other. And we talked about one of the most fascinating characteristics of games, that they are pleasingly frustrating. And this you have really to keep in mind when it comes to how to gamify school or how to gamify your classroom. So last time I also mentioned for a moment how to structure different content and so on. But today we want to talk about that again, and more structured and a little bit deeper. So the point is that today I want to talk with you about divergent thinking in class. I think that's really helpful. I will introduce you to the thought of core materials and related materials, and then how to get started in the first place by transferring them into some kind of progress tree. So far, right now, or nowadays, we have this discipline thinking, right? Different kind of topics in school, separated disciplines. So here people are learning math, here they are learning physics, here they are learning a language, here we have sports, biology, and so on. I think you get it. So far, it's designed like this. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, and then you're doing this. However your timetable says it. So now, by introducing divergent thinking, we are changing that. We are going away from a vertical point of view to a horizontal point of view. That means from now on, we are going this way. So suddenly, we have to go through all the disciplines together, if possible. What I mean by that is that we talked about problem solving in the other video. So the point is now, can I come up with a problem, and to be able to solve the problem, you have to think about these different disciplines and how they are interacting with each other. So it's more about, so you're starting the school year more with some kind of complex challenge than just following the timetable made up by separate disciplines. That's the thinking, the core thinking, okay? This is already really some kind of challenge for the teachers, not for them, also for us, whatever. Because the point is, you have to find out, okay, what are the core elements of every different kind of topic that you want your students to learn in this particular class. So let's say we're talking about the 5th grades in college. We are trying to find out, okay, what do they have to learn in math? But so far not everything, only the core elements, okay? Because otherwise it becomes too complex so far. That's something for the more advanced ones. Okay, so then we are thinking about physics, language, sports, biology, and so on. And we are trying to write that down. Let's say we find for every different kind of discipline, we have, take two different kind of milestones that they really have to learn. Of course, that it doesn't say that they don't have to learn other stuff too, but for our approach right now, how to gamify at least a particular part of the education, in your classroom, we are thinking about 2 elements from every discipline. So that means we have 10 different elements, okay? So 10 different elements, topics, whatever. These 10 elements have to play an important role within the given story, within the more complex challenge. Let's say we think about Leonardo da Vinci, who is living in a city, the city is surrounded by enemies, and now you have to help Da Vinci to survive by building some kind of engine that can fly, by whatever, okay? So take out the Da Vinci stuff that he has created, his inventions, and then try to find out what would fit best. For example, or perhaps even that is not your part, this is already part of the students. They have to find it out, what's best. The point is, of course, now you as a teacher, you are the moderator. You don't have to tell them this is the right solution. And you have to feel free to let them run into the wrong direction. I know that doesn't sound really rational from a teacher's point of view, but this is how people learn best, and this is how they learn in games. Okay, by failing, but by failing pleasingly frustrating. Okay, this is what I really like about that stuff. You try something out, you see, okay, that's not working, and by seeing that's not working, you're learning and you're trying a different way. So you have these 10 elements and you come up with a story. Let's say you have found your story with Da Vinci and you know exactly, well, the 10 elements, I can put them in there. And if the students know about these 10 elements, so let's say they know exactly the 2 different kind of topics that I want them to learn in math, in physics, I want them to learn different kind of stuff in languages, from a grammar point of view, whatever. Then probably they will be able to solve the overall challenge. So let's say, just to make it easy, the first 3 disciplines, math, physics, and language, you say these are my most important approaches. These are my core material. So physics, sure, let's say the story is about creating some kind of aircraft, whatever. Physics and math, I think it makes sense. Language, sure, because all the stuff that the students have to read, unfortunately, it's only available in English or in Latin or whatever. So we have these 3 core elements that they need to master in order to solve the more complex challenge until the end of the year. And then to know what you think, what you want them to know about sports and biology could really be helpful in order to master the other 3 elements, or in order to finish the story even more effective, whatever. So these are our related. This is our related material. Core material, related material, okay? So now we go back to something that I already mentioned, the progress tree. Now we think about, okay, if you think about games, all of us probably have already seen a progress tree. You start at the top, you're doing something, you're checking it out, the first element of the progress tree, you have learned the first 10 basic vocabulary. If you think about Duolingo, for example, or another language learning app, in games you have worked with the first raw materials, now checked it up, now you unlocked the possibility to work with other kind of materials and resources, and then you go down. So often the progress tree shows you how far you already progressed, but it also shows you what kind of skills you gained, what kind of resources you unlocked already, and so on. So you can have different kind of progress trees, or you have combined them all in one. So now let's take these 3 core material in the first place and say, okay, we can create some kind of order. We say in the beginning, probably, or it makes sense, you have to know a little bit of math in order to be able to decide what kind of solution would be best for Da Vinci to survive, whatever. Okay, so we have the first step. And you can decide, okay, in the first step, you have to learn about math, or the part 1 of the first element of math that you have decided to do, and part 1 of or element 1 of physics you have to decide to use. And of course they have to read about the stuff. So perhaps you have all of that already in this kind of first step. Language, okay, sorry. Language, math, and physics. So now, of course, make it easy in the beginning. Games are always easy to get started, but hard to master. So make it easy for them in the beginning, just to learn the rules, the mechanics, and to have the first progress, so they feel comfortable in this new environment, learning environment situation. And it's also good for you to see, okay, there's something happening as a teacher. So, and then you decide, okay, what could be the second big milestone to unlock? What do you have to learn, to know, to achieve, to solve, whatever? Always looking at your core material so far. And then you're going ahead. And so, if you think that through, suddenly you have this kind of core progress tree string. So, but now we talked also about related materials. And you see, okay, perhaps, if they had figured out how to use physics and math in order to build an aircraft, now we think about the material you have to use to build the aircraft. Okay, so we have to use wood. Okay, you need to know something about biology. What kind of wood would be the best, and so on. But it doesn't make sense to learn it there. It only makes sense after you've learned it. So perhaps you could already introduce biology, the first part of biology here. And this way you can add the related materials also, and not just these. Perhaps over the course of the year, you figure out that, hey, there's something in geography we also have to take into account, because it's different if you are in a valley, if you want to start an aircraft, or if you want to, or if you're on top of a hill, okay? So then, let's say suddenly you decide, hey, okay, we will introduce also geography here. And then, of course, it goes down, because you dig deeper into biology, you dig deeper into geography, and perhaps suddenly you come up with something else, and so on. This way you create a progress tree. From my point of view, the amazing value of a progress tree is that students can look at that. Every time they look at that, they see exactly what they have already achieved. So they see the effort they have already put into something. And if they recognize that there is some kind of effort I already used to go forward, to progress, it just would be stupid to stop it now, because I have put a lot of effort already in it. It's also known for the IKEA effect. And the other thing is that they have some kind of, even if you're providing a broader context for students to figure out how to solve the challenge by themselves, by offering some kind of progress tree, they have some kind of, let's say, path that they can go. It's not totally free, it's not overwhelming with decisions. They have some kind of autonomy, because they can decide where to dig deeper, what kind of topic they want really to master, and so on. So they have this kind of feeling to decide by themselves, okay, I found the solution, but it's still framed enough not to, so that they don't think it's too overwhelming, too much stuff, I don't know where to go. And the best part is, if you don't show all the progress tree from the beginning, but let's say only the part that they have already achieved, just unlocked, and then perhaps already some directions, a little bit of some stuff for the next level, they always see, hey, I've achieved that already, I'm here right now, and there's much more to come. So if I put more effort into that, if I keep with the story, I will learn more, or there's more for me to develop. And this together is a very, very powerful framework. And what I really like about this approach is, so far, rewarding the students is not necessary anymore like we know it. It's not about, hey, if you do that, you will get this kind of grade, or you will get that kind of badge, or let's make a leaderboard or whatever. Progressing through the story, this is the rewarding element for the students themselves. Every time they unlock something, it's not unlocking because I did something that's boring at the first time. It's I unlocked something because I proved that I now have the skills to take on the next challenge. This is what I mean by unlocking. So it has to make sense how this whole progress tree is being built up. And this is the rewarding stuff. So think about yourself. If you're playing games, or doing sports or performing a hobby, the fascinating thing is that if we are good in it, the context is becoming harder. So everything is getting harder. Okay, the next level is harder than the one before, or more difficult. Sports is becoming more difficult if I get to another league, and so on. If I raise in the league, my opponents are getting stronger, and so on. So it's always about unlocking a more difficult challenge, actually. But the challenge is depending on my own skills, and I proved that I now earned it to take on the next challenge. And only by introducing the material in some kind of progress tree like this, you are already visualizing that and transporting that kind of thinking. So the difficulty, of course, is that you have to be able to, in this different kind of disciplines, to work together. That means different kind of teachers have to work together to provide or to create one story. I think there's a new skill necessary for teachers and also for students, but for teachers in the first place to come up with that kind of divergent stories and to be more like a moderator than a teacher. So it's not like you have to let the students figure it out by themselves. What is the next step, where to go? Because if you don't do that, you're taking away this kind of unlocking achievement. And then we have the old problem, like I was before, that we are being told what we have to learn, and no one wants to achieve that or wants to experience that. So we need more collaboration between the different disciplines, and we need a skill like being a moderator. I don't know, perhaps it helps if you think about, do you still know the pen and paper games, the old one, where we had the Dungeon Master? And the Dungeon Master, he had two different kind of roles, and I really like that kind of example. The first role is that he's the narrator, he's telling the story, but in a very broad context, so that the players themselves that are sitting with him on the table can decide what to do. And on the other side, he's the enemy. So if the team at the table decides to fight the dragon, he's playing the dragon, and he is to try to survive and to kill the team that's trying to kill the dragon. The point is, they have to be able to master the balance between creating an exciting story at one side, and it's only exciting if it's really difficult and if there's a possibility to die as a character, and on the other side, you want them to survive, actually, because if they die, they're not coming back. So it's really difficult, but there are some kind of dungeon masters that I know also. They're amazing in creating this kind of balance so that it's hard enough, but just so short before dying, hard enough. And on the other side, it's not too hard enough so that I still want to come back and play with the same dungeon master the next evening. And I think this is some kind of role that, should be a role model for a teacher if we think about divergent thinking in school and how to gamify your classroom. Okay, I hope this already helps you to get started with your class, with your thinking, but then now one bonus thing. Perhaps in the beginning it's not too easy to get other teachers to cooperate with you, to explain the whole concept to them and to cooperate with you. This way, you're only focusing on your discipline. Let's say yours is language. Okay? So now the core tree is built up only on language elements. But then you try, by time to time, when it makes sense, to add, to adapt one of the elements of the different kind of disciplines, and I would say the one that you as a language teacher know from math or physics. So it's probably will be more simple ones, and add them into your class. And you do that by asking the other teachers just to justify if what you have just added to the story is right or not. And of course you can go to the teacher and ask, hey, I want to add some of I think we just read something about, I don't know, philosophy, a very famous philosopher, in Latin. And I want to show them where the guys were living. So now I want to add some kind of geography elements. I thought about this kind of element or this one. Could you justify if that's right? Could you help me? What would be the easiest way to get geography introduced into my philosophy class, whatever. And so you're starting to onboarding the other teachers into your story. And yeah, hopefully asking 10, you will find 1 or 2 other teachers who like the approach and then helping you, and then you introduce them to the new way, and then 2 or 3 years later you can go on together. Any questions about that? Let me know. It means the world to me if we can get some kind of feedback, if you tried it or not, or if you think, no, this is not working because of that or that. If you like the video, please give it a thumb up. Subscribe to the channel, of course, on YouTube, so that you get all the new stuff right into your inbox. That would be amazing. Let me know what you think. Bye.